All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Geographic, and I'll be your host for today. First of all, big happy Ocean Week. Yesterday was World Ocean Day, and to celebrate, we'll be hosting ocean events all week long. So we've got about 20 events going on during the course of the week. Lots of ocean explorers and scientists to meet, as well as really cool virtual field trips to Costa Rica, to turtle hospitals, to the Toronto Zoo. We've got lots of great ocean content coming your way. So I can see we've got groups starting to join us live on YouTube. Use that chat sidebar on the right and introduce yourselves. Say hi, let us know where you're tuning in from. And then of course, we're gonna work in some of your questions when the Q&A time comes. All right, well, on to today's event. We are heading to the Galapagos. I'm so excited today to be joined by Pelayo Salinas-de-León. He is a marine ecologist with a keen interest in marine protected areas, as well as shark ecology and the communication of science. So he serves as National Geographic Pristine Seas conservation scientist, as a senior marine ecologist, and he's also a senior marine ecologist with the Charles Darwin Foundation. So his research and conservation efforts around Darwin and Wolf Islands in the north of the Galapagos helped inform the government's decision to create a 40,000 square kilometer no-take marine sanctuary. So if you think about that, that's the size of Switzerland. It's absolutely amazing. So Pelayo, it's so amazing to have you joining us live from the Galapagos today. As a diver myself, there's nothing I love better than jumping into the water with sharks, and we're pretty excited to learn a little bit more about the sharks in the Galapagos.
Well, good morning, Joe from the Galapagos. I'm very happy to be here with everyone, and I'm very happy because I can get to talk about my favorite things, which is the underwater world and obviously sharks. So before I start, I want to introduce myself. I was a kid myself some long time ago. And since I was very little, this is my first ocean picture with 2 years. I really like to get into the water. And after many years of studying and follow my passion for marine biology, I started working at the Galapagos Islands. So I share two positions. So I'm a senior scientist with the Charles Darwin Foundation. So I'm based most of the time in the Galapagos, where I mostly study sharks. But I'm also part of the Pristine Seas team. And this is a program that was created by Enrique Sala. And the mission is very simple, and is to help protect the last wild places in the ocean. So every year we go to 3-4 locations, and we work with local governments to create marine protected areas. But today I want to talk about sharks. And I guess the first question, and a question that even my dad asked me all the time, why should we care about sharks? You know, we get the picture all the time on the media that they are these evil man-eating machines that, you know, the moment you jump in the water, they will cut you into pieces. But this is fake news. This is, you know, unjustified bad media that the press has been giving them for decades. And today my aim is to try to convince you that they are not like that. And luckily for me, I have the support of our shark ambassadors. So let me introduce you Vanessa, Ron, Pancho, Guillo, and Ramona. And them can tell you the 5 reasons why we should care and we should love and protect sharks. So the first one is a very obvious one. You know, sharks are just super cool. And I guess one of the best examples is the scallop hammerhead shark. And here is Guillo. And scallop hammerheads, you know, they have that really odd head that allows them to feel things that we as humans will never be able to feel. For example, they can detect electromagnetic fields, and they can navigate across the ocean without a map and go from, example, the Galapagos to places located that are, you know, 3,000 kilometers away, just by feeling, you know, the bottom of the ocean. The second reason why sharks are important, Vanessa is going to explain, and I have a short video for you. This is part of our shark educational program. And Vanessa is going to share with you why sharks are the guardians of the ocean.
Have you ever seen a tiger shark? No? Well then, let me introduce myself. I am Vanessa the tigress. also known as Vanessa the tiger shark. Although many people are afraid of us and have given us a bad reputation, sharks are very important for the oceans, and the oceans are very important for the planet. Imagine coral reefs full of colour and life. These are home to many animals. Now, let's look at the food chain in the ocean. At the bottom, there are the primary producers, which are really interesting because they can make their own food with the help of sunlight, like algae, for example. These serve as a food source for herbivore fish or primary consumers like the parrotfish. Then we have the secondary consumers that are bigger fish like the Galapagos grouper, which feed on primary consumers. And finally, we have the top predators of the oceans, us, the sharks. Now, imagine a marine ecosystem without sharks. Do you understand what would happen in the ocean if sharks were to disappear? Sharks feed on old, weak, or sick animals, helping to keep the ecosystems healthy. Some of our prey includes fish, sea turtles, crustaceans, seabirds, and big animals like sea lions. Human beings are not part of our diet. If tiger sharks and other shark species didn't exist, the oceans would become unbalanced. That is how important we are.
So sharks, keep marine ecosystems healthy, and also their prey populations happy and healthy too. The third reason why sharks are important is they are very important for local economies, especially here in the Galapagos. A lot of people come here just to dive with sharks, and they pay a lot of money. So we have calculated, for example, that a single shark in the Galapagos produces $300,000 per year. So they create jobs and are a source of revenue for the local economy. So on top of this, sharks are endangered. We've been fishing sharks for decades, and a lot of the species now are in the red list of endangered species. And if we don't act, we might lose them forever. And like Vanessa mentioned before, if we lose sharks, then the oceans will be in deep trouble. And the last reason to study sharks is because they need to be obviously understood and also need to be protected. And without this knowledge about where they go, what they like to eat, or where they spend most of the time, we won't be able to protect them. So this is why I've been studying sharks at the Galapagos for almost 8 years. And the next part of the presentation is to introduce you to my office. So I don't know if any of you are aware of the Galapagos, but it's this volcanic group of islands in the middle of the Pacific, 1,000 kilometers from the coast. And because we have this mix of ocean currents that bring both cold and warm water, it creates a perfect environment for marine life, but also for sharks. And this is my office, and this is the most special place for me. This is the northernmost island of the Galapagos. It's called Darwin Island. And Darwin Island is very famous because it has this archway. It's a perfect stone archway. And I like to call it, the archway to happiness, because the moment you jump in the water here, you get transported to how the oceans were in the past. So this is where we do most of our studies. And this is me counting sharks using three-dimensional cameras. So the moment you dive in here, you get transported to the sharkest place in the galaxy. And I want you to close your eyes and imagine that you're about to jump at the gate of Darwin's Arch and immerse yourself into probably the most special place on the planet. So the moment you dive here, you might encounter a dinosaur. And this is a species that you cannot see anywhere else on Earth. This is a Galapagos marine iguana. It's endemic to the archipelago. And I like to call them mini Godzilla, You know, they are this perfect miniature version of Godzilla. They are absolutely harmless. They feed on algae. They are a perfect vegetarian. And they like to hang out at the arch. As you continue going down, you might get engulfed by a fish tornado because these resident jacks are always hanging out around Darwin's Arch. And just being surrounded by fish, for me, is, you know, the most special thing that you can have on your office. And obviously, when you dive down here, there is sharks. And a couple of years ago, we published a study showing that the Darwin and Wolf Islands have the largest global concentration of sharks. And most of these sharks are scallop hammerhead sharks. These sharks, they form aggregations that can be in the hundreds, in the thousands. And despite what most people think that sharks are, you know, these man-eating machines, hammerheads are very, very shy. And this is why we have to free dive to study them, because if we were to go down on a scuba equipment, just the sound of the bubbles will scare them away. So when you dive down at Darwin's Arch, it doesn't matter where you look. You can look left, you can look right, you can look up, down. There is sharks everywhere. And these sharks are around 2 to 3 meters in length. But when Ramona, the whale shark, shows up, you know, size, you know, the perception of size really changes, because Darwin's Arch is one of the few places where you can see fully mature whale sharks. And just to give you a dimension of how big these future whale shark mamas are, this is a 2.5 meter silky sharks next to one of the whale sharks at Darwin. And, you know, we've seen many times silky sharks using whale sharks as a kind of a sponge to scratch their back. So you will have the whale shark swimming, and then the silky coming with their back and scratch their back to get rid of their parasites and skin diseases. And believe me, when Ramona shows up, and if you are diving, you better get out of the way, because, you know, they are on a mission to find their pupping grounds and birth to their babies. So if you see a 40-meter whale shark coming your way, you ring the bell, tell your divers that she's coming, and better make way. Sometimes we are also very lucky to have things like man-submersibles to do our job. And believe me, this is one of the coolest things that I've been able to do in my life. This is a perfect bubble that works, and it takes you down up to 1,000 meters and back up. We were very fortunate a couple of years ago to use this at Darwin's Arch. And when we went down to 1,000 meters, we found things like this. This is a reef, a cold water coral reef at 400 meters deep. And when people think about the bottom of the ocean, they think about this empty space with no life, but it's completely the opposite. There is life everywhere. There is corals, there is sponge, and obviously there is sharks. And when we go to these depths, it tells us how much we still have to know about sharks. For example, we went down a couple of years ago with Bob Ballard and his ship Nautilus, and we documented this shark. And to date, it still doesn't have a name, because it is a new species to science that it hasn't been described yet. So it highlights that even though we are exploring outer space and we want to colonize Mars, we still have a big ocean full of secrets that need to be discovered. So my invite, before we enter the period for questions, is that you can also become a shark ambassador. So we have this educational program here at the Galapagos Islands, Shark Ambassadors, where we teach the local kids about the importance of sharks for ecosystems, like I shared today, but also for the local economy. So they can also become guardians of the ocean and guardians of the sharks. So if you become a shark ambassador, there is a entry price, which is priceless, and it's me giving you a free shark face paint if you want to join. So I have ample experience, over 1,000 face paints so far. And if you want to know more about sharks in the Galapagos and how to become a shark ambassador, you can also get into our website at the Darwin Foundation, or you can take a picture of this code And you will be able to download for free our shark guide, where we provide a summary of why sharks are cool, why sharks are important, and also about the 33 different shark species that you can find on the Galapagos Islands. So you can download this. I'm afraid it's only in Spanish, but it gives a perfect excuse to learn Spanish. So this is where I wanted to end it, because I think you will have lots of questions about why sharks are important and why the Galapagos is so special. So I'm here as long as you want to answer any question you might have.
All right. Awesome. Thank you for that great presentation. It makes me miss the ocean so much, not being able to travel. I haven't been diving in several months, so getting to see your office is pretty special. Different than a lot of people's offices, that's for sure. All right. So Pelayo, I'll get you to, if you hit stop screen share, you'll come back nice and full screen with us for the Q&A portion.
Sure. I'm here.
Perfect. There we go. So I have to ask, with Pristine Seas, you get to travel around the world and you get to visit some of the most pristine spots in the ocean left in the world. Can you tell our audience, the students joining us today, what it's like when you jump into the water in one of those spots, in one of those pristine spots in the ocean?
So, when you study marine biology, you read a lot about how bad the ocean is and, how evil we've been to many ecosystems and species. And you kind of tend to lose hope. But then when you go to these places, like Enrique wants to call them, the instructions manual of the ocean, and you dive in these areas that, are untouched, the first thing is just pure joy, because it takes you back in time of how most of the ocean once was. So it also recharges your energy to continue fighting for the ocean and having hope that we have the solution. So many places can be like that, and the solution is very simple. You just need to protect them, and the ocean has this amazing regenerative power. And if we let them be, they will bounce back.
All right. Awesome. Well, we've got great groups joining us live on YouTube today, as well as live on camera. Really excited to start getting some of the questions. I'm going to give a few shout outs here on YouTube. We've got Mr. Merman's class in Aurelia, Ontario, the Wilson families tuning in Hamilton, Ms. Meefer's grade 4s in Ajax, Ms. Wilbank's grade 5s in Toronto, Ontario, Madame Aaron's class in Kamloops, British Columbia. Let's see, grade 3 and 4s hanging out in Toronto, Ontario. So keep those intros coming. Looks like we've got Guelph, Ontario as well. Lots of people tuning in for some shark action today, Ottawa, Ontario. And we've got the first question here. This is from Emma. And Emma really wants to know what your favorite species of shark is.
Oh, that's a hard one. Like a father, you love your child equally, but obviously, I've done a lot of work over the years with the scallop hammerheads, and I spend a lot of time in the water. When you free dive with them, because you are not doing any sound and they don't see you as a threat, just going down, imagine going down to 10 meters and being surrounded by a school of hammerheads, where sometimes they just bump into you because they think you are sort of one of them. That's, to me, something very, very special, and probably makes me love them a lot. Some other species that I really like is the tiger shark, because they are these heavily stigmatized and poorly understood shark that everyone thinks is evil and can eat you and all that. Obviously they are wild animals, but anytime we dive, I never see a tiger shark. And we go out shark fishing, and we know there is a lot of them. So it tells you how shy they are and how afraid they are of us. So those two probably are my favorite, the hammerhead and the tiger.
All right, very cool. I'm going to start getting some microphones turned on here. We have Miss Dahl joining us today. Her class looks like they're third graders from Newcastle, Ontario. They're tuning in via YouTube, but we have Miss Dahl here on camera. If you want to turn your mic on, say hi. And if any questions have come in so far, go ahead and fire away with one.
Hi, shark lovers. This is pretty cool. I have a few questions from Peyton and Jenna. How many different species of sharks are there, and how long do they generally live for?
Okay, so in the Galapagos, there is records for 33 species. Although that is changing all the time, because like I showed you before, we go in a sub, you are there at 1,000 meters, and then you look at a moving thing, and I was like, oh, what is that? And then you look to the guy next to you in the sub, I was like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know what that is. So then you come up to the surface, and oops, it's a new species that hasn't been described. So far 33 species, but that's likely to change in the near future. And for how far they live is a very tricky question, because it's very hard for a scientist to estimate the age of a shark. Normally you count the rings on the bones on the vertebra, and one ring is 1 year sort of thing, but it's not very perfect science. But different estimates have calculated, for example, that the Greenland shark is the longest living vertebrate on the planet. And they've estimated it can live up to 400 years. So that's number one in vertebrates. For other species like the scallop hammerhead shark, estimates are around 35 years, but that's likely an underestimate. And for example, a recent research paper came out a couple of weeks ago, estimating the age of whale sharks, and they think they could be up to 150 years old.
All right, very cool. And then Pelayo, around the world, is it about 500 species that have been described so far?
Yeah. It's roughly around 500.
Very cool. So we have another question here coming in via YouTube, and they are wondering about how you count the sharks. When you jump into the water and you need to estimate or get a count, what's your strategy? How do you do it?
So it's quite tricky because just think that you are in one of those plastic ball swimming pools, you know, at the theme park. You know, you are there with your friends and you are throwing bubbles in the air, and there is bubbles everywhere. That's what it's like diving at Darwin Hatch, because you have sharks, you have fish, you have tuna coming in, sometimes you have dolphins. So it's quite tricky, but we use a couple of methods. One of them is laying down a transect tape. So this is like a piece of rope that is.
Oops, it looks like we may have lost Pelayo for a moment. He is calling from the Galapagos, and the signal there is notorious for sometimes not being great, especially during the circumstances we have right now, but I think he's back in already.
Oops, I think I dropped for a second.
Yeah, we lost you for a second, but you came back quick.
Okay, I'm back, yeah. The Galapagos internet gods are in our favor today. So you lay this tape, and then you estimate how many sharks are within this box that is the tape, and then 2 meters up, 2 meters to the left, 2 meters to the right. So that's how you count them. The other thing we do is we use sort of 3-dimensional cameras. So these are 2 cameras that film at the same time, and both cameras overlap. So then you can bring those videos to a special software, and you watch them on your screen, and then you can use this software to count them and also estimate their size. Because we marine biologists, we most of the time use kilos rather than numbers.
Okay, our internet good luck might be running out. Let's see if he can come back in and we can get a few more questions in. I'm glad it didn't happen during the presentation.
Am I back again?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know what's wrong, but it worked fine yesterday. I don't know if you heard my response.
you were just talking about how you use, I think, kilos.
Oh yeah. So instead of using numbers, we use kilos of sharks. So we need to know how many are there. So we count them, but also we give them a size estimation. So there is a like a mathematical relationship between length and weight. So we convert the length into how many kilos of sharks are there in the ocean.
All right, let's turn on another microphone here. This time we're going to go to British Columbia, to Tatla Lake. We have some students hanging out with Miss Gordon. If you want to pop that microphone on and say hi. Here they come. Hey, boys and girls, how are ya?
Hola.
Hi. So Serena had a question. Serena's really interested in becoming a marine biologist, and she was wondering what kind of training, how do you become a marine biologist?
So you have to study something in the school, something that is science related. And then there are many programs, there are many college programs to start getting into ocean science. So you can study biology to become a marine biologist and study life, right? Animals or plants. But also there is another career path that get you to study ocean processes like oceanography, currents, primary productivity, etc. So you can choose a number of different ways. And then if you want to become a scientist in the long run, you might continue to graduate the school. You know, you can do a master's degree or you can do a PhD, where basically a mentor teaches you how to do research and how to collect data, analyze it, and write scientific papers. And obviously, if you like to be on the field, and like Joe and I like to go underwater and be wet and explore the ocean, at some point, it doesn't need to be when you are in grad school. I think the minimum age is 13 years old. You can learn how to scuba dive because it's the best way to get into the ocean. So you can do a scuba diving certification that is under a week. They teach you what you should and shouldn't do. And then an instructor takes you underwater and it shows you how to breathe from this tank that is in your back. And when you do that, for me, it completely changed my universe because it becomes your passion. And you go down underwater looking for critters or taking pictures or seeing a behavior or seeing this species or just looking up and seeing the fishes or the whales or the dolphins swim, to me is some of the best experiences you can have. So I'm very glad that there are some marine biologists or marine scientist candidates in the class. And I only can share that if I was born again, I will do the same. It's my passion, and the more the merrier, because the oceans are in deep trouble and they need the most help that we can provide them.
All right. I think that's a really important message too, that the ocean is in trouble, but we can help it. And then if you want a career, discovering new things, exploring new places, there's no better spot than the ocean because we still have a lot to explore and a lot to learn about our ocean. So it's a great career to anybody out there who's looking for something exciting and with a lot to discover. All right, Anna and Carter in Ocean City, New Jersey, if you want to turn your microphone on, we'd love to steal a question.
We have one question. Do they lose teeth and grow new ones?
Can you say that again? Sorry, I didn't pick it up.
Do they lose teeth and grow new ones?
Yes, they have this sort of conveyor belt. So their teeth need to be sharp because their food moves really fast. So you only have one chance to grab a bite, right? So their teeth have to be 100% all the time. So they have this system in which old teeth fall off and they have new teeth coming up. So they are fresh and ready for their favorite meal, and different species that use different food sources, their teeth are different shape. So for example, the tiger shark teeth is designed like a saw to saw through hard structures, and other shark species like a blue shark or a mako shark, the shark are very sharp and pointy, so they can grab fast moving fish species.
All right, great question. Back to YouTube. Let's grab another question here. We've got a classroom in Guelph, Ontario, grade 7s, Ms. Ray's group, and they're wondering about what's been happening to shark populations over the last 30 years.
So unfortunately, is very sad news. So we humans, we have become very, very good at fishing. We have a lot of technology. We have satellites, we have sonars, we have bigger boats. We can go to pretty much any corner of our ocean. So because nobody has been really caring about sharks, fishing fleets have been systematically fishing and killing sharks globally without anyone saying, "Oh, that's not cool. We have to slow down or stop because they are in deep trouble." So it has been estimated that 9 out of 10 large fishes of sharks have been already fished from the oceans. So we are only seeing 10% of what once was the ocean. And it has also been estimated that every year we fish an average or a mean of.
Oh, I think we had another internet drop, but lucky for us, he's able to come back in really quickly so far. So I think we can squeeze in a few more questions before we run out of our time. Anybody who is tuning in, if you want to join a cool event next, oh, he's back. I'll tell you about it in a second.
Am I back?
We gotcha. No big deal.
Okay. Sorry. It's
No, don't worry about it.
Galapagos connectivity. So I was saying that sharks are in deep trouble, and now a lot of species are threatened with extinction. The good thing is that also, I guess over the last 10 years, the general perception of people towards sharks is changing. So now more and more people are caring about them and are worrying about how bad their population are doing. So people are asking for a change of how we fish, but also a change in protection of the ocean. So I was talking before about these areas of the ocean that are protected. And if we protect a big part of the ocean where sharks live, they will come back. Also, you will have to do the way we fish because it is not sustainable.
All right. Let me see by a raise of hands. Do I have to visit another one of our camera groups again? Oh, yeah. Okay, let's start off with, let's go in reverse this time. Let's go to Tatler Lake. If you want to turn on your microphone, if you have another question, we'll take it. And then we'll go back to our group in Newcastle, Ontario, and we'll grab a question.
So we were wondering if when sharks have their young, if they're born alive, and does that still make them, if so, does that still make them a fish or are they a mammal?
Ooh, they are a fish, and they're actually a fish whose body skeleton is made out of cartilage. So they are different from your normal fish, if you want to call it. Their body is made out of bone. Sharks are made of cartilage. So when they give birth to their babies, they have different ways of giving birth. So they might have an egg that develops inside the mom, and then it gives birth to a live sharks. Or some other species, for example, they have these egg capsules that they put on the seafloor, and then the baby shark develops within this sort of egg. And then after a number of weeks, it hatches on its own from this external egg capsule. The other thing that sharks don't do is they don't parent their offspring. So when they give birth to their babies have to be ready to jump into the world and become self-sufficient. So that's why baby sharks are, fully formed, and they are ready to catch their dinner because mom won't be there to cook dinner at night.
All right, fair enough. Good question. Let's see, Newcastle, Ontario, if you want to turn your mic on, let's see if the third graders have a question or two.
Oh, all right, one of my students, Ella, has a question about head size and shape. Maybe perhaps you could speak to the head shape of the hammerhead and why it's shaped the way it is.
Yeah, so that's a great question because hammerheads are my favorite, so it's an easy one. So sharks, they have this sense that we humans don't have, that is called electroreception. So they can detect electric and magnetic fields. So it is very hard for me, or I guess for anyone, to imagine how that will be. But at the snout, they have these sensors that are called the ampulla of Lorenzini. So these are like sort of receptors that can detect those electromagnetic fields. And the skull of hammerhead head, it is shaped, in that white form to maximize that sense. So the whole head snout is covered in these receptors, and the way they move their head is like they are scanning the water and the seabed around them. So for example, they can use that to kind of see through things. So for example, they can detect a stingray that is hiding, all quiet, hiding under the sun. The hammerheads, they can go scanning the sun and detect that a stingray is hiding by detecting the electrical signals. So it's probably the shark that has, optimized that sense the most, because they can also use it to read the bottom of the ocean to do their migrations. So they follow these underwater volcano chains to go from islands to the areas where they mate, or they feed, or they reproduce. So they are the ultimate electronic sensor.
Very cool. So one more question coming in from YouTube, Pelayo, and this is from Ryder. And so I have a feeling that you don't have any scary shark moments, but he's wondering about, oh, I think we lost him. See if we can get one more question in when he comes back in, and then we'll sign off for today. So let's give him another moment. Here he comes.
Sorry.
All right. No big deal. It only takes a second for you to come back.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So the last question we'll ask today is from Ryder, and Ryder's curious about, have you ever had a scary moment while diving? So I bet you nothing with sharks, but I'm wondering if maybe you've had an equipment failure or something like that.
So obviously it is important to understand and know that sharks are wild animals. They are top predators. And when we go in the water, we are entering their territory. It's like if we go to the savannah in Africa and we are with a pack of lions. Obviously, we'll need to keep our distance and also not interfere when they are feeding, right? Because they are excited and they are getting the meal, and it has cost them a lot of effort to catch their meal. So the last thing they want is someone saying, "Hey, hi, I'm here diving. I want to water you." So I never had like a dramatic experience with sharks in the water. I've been very close to them, but always respecting and understanding their space and their behavior. Probably a scary moment, the most scary moment on the water for me was when I got caught in this, it's called a downwelling current. So normally currents go horizontally but this one went down, and I was diving, and basically you get trapped on this downwater flow, and you have to keep your calm, because if you panic, then it's not good. But it's just a matter of swimming horizontally out of this down current, and then eventually you will come up. And some other times it hasn't happened to me, but equipment failure with your dive buddy, and that's why you have to always dive in pairs and be with someone else, so you are there to give them a hand or receive a hand if you are in trouble. But nothing that nothing too scary that you cannot joke or celebrate after having a special experience.
All right. Well, Pelayo, thank you so much. Thank you for taking us into your office today. I know that everybody tuning in learned a lot about sharks. I'm just looking at what Emma said on YouTube. She said, wow, she had no idea that sharks were in the ocean, and she now likes sharks more than she used to. So I think,
awesome.
Sometimes some education is all people need to realize that sharks aren't these big, scary predators we see on TV, that they're misunderstood, and there's a lot of myths around them. So thank you for sharing that with us today, and that they're actually in trouble, but we can do something about it, because the ocean's pretty amazing. And if you give it space, it can bounce back.
Awesome.
All right.
Joe, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll have some more shark scientists in the future.
Excellent. Well, thank you to everybody who tuned in on YouTube, all the students, all the families at home. Thank you to everybody who joined us live in the call from New Jersey and Ontario and British Columbia. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your ocean week. And we hope to see you in some more events. And actually, while I remember, if you head over to the National Geographic Education YouTube channel, in 15 minutes, we're going to go live, and I'm going to host a wildlife DJ who's going to do a set with some really cool wildlife sounds. It's going to be a lot of fun. So check that out, National Geographic Education YouTube channel, in about 15 minutes. Pelayo, thank you so much. Thank you for calling us from the Galapagos, from your office today.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon.
Day.